Hi, my name's Tony and I'm from the Sup Company, and today with a rather special guest we're going to walk you through the Infinity Whiplash. So look, what I tend to do in all of our videos here at the Sup Company as well, we walk through from the nose down towards the tail. Can you run us through from the nose down towards the tail, and perhaps we can talk a bit about the construction as to the whys and the wherefores as to why you've crafted and sculpted this most beautiful of boards.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. We've been having a good time since we landed in London yesterday. So we've been here not just one day so far, but we already happened to share a couple pints and nice breakfast out here at the
pleasure
at the spot. But it's super fun and exciting for me to see the Whiplash starting to show up all over the world. You guys were some of the first guys to get one, so I noticed you guys on your social medias showing it and stuff. So it's been really cool to see. And even in in the U.S. we haven't got many of them, so it's really cool to come all the way here and have this one in your possession. So
we're thrilled. Genuinely, we couldn't be more excited. And I think the moment that they arrived and we got the boards out of the boxes, there was literally a queue of people. And they arrived just prior to a big race board demo day that we had, and there's a queue of people just itching, absolutely excited to get on all the boards and give them a good go. And yeah, the feedback has been absolutely superb.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, we all know the delays have been a little bit hectic, so it's cool for people to be excited as we are. So, but yeah, I mean, this is the Whiplash. This is our flat water board. Obviously, it's in hollow construction this year. New tail design and a couple little features that make this board unique. And it's just something we've been pretty proud about. We got Itzel Delgado here today, and he's going to go training here in a little bit, but he's been competing on this board. He's won a few races on this board already. So out of the gates, it's just been a lot of buzz around it, and it's just something we're excited about.
What I didn't fully appreciate until we had a few beers last night was really just the heritage that there is at Infinity.
Yeah.
I didn't fully appreciate that over 50 years.
Yeah, making surfboards for sure.
Yeah, and water sports products that have been leading within the genres that they sit, and that those design cues and that legacy and that knowledge is fed into everything.
Yeah, it really is like a linear. It's like I always kind of picture that, like the evolution of man chart. It's like an ape into like the guy.
Yeah.
That's like our boards, because it's funny, like our early race boards, they're basically prone paddle boards.
Yeah.
Because all the surfers were watermen and they raced prone paddle boards. Then when stand-up paddling came around, you're trying to stand on these prone paddle boards, and they're just round hold-out boards, like impossible to stand on. So the very first ones were really, really fast, but very unstable, right? And they're all pintails, the whole thing. And then, just evolutionized, like Kai Lenny and started winning Battle of the Paddle on square tails. So the next year, of course, we're making square tails, and just by changing a pintail to a square tail was unreal, the stability that came from that, right?
Yeah.
Because, if you're a board designer, you're like, oh, pintail's faster. Why would I make a square tail? But we all know that you're not fast if you're not stable. So there's always that balance of being stable, able to apply all your power, but still have it be a nice, efficient board. And that's what's fun about it, and that's what keeps me awake at night, is thinking about this stuff. So it's fun to have a baseline of design to pick from, right? Like I was definitely lucky in that way, to where I didn't have to throw stuff at the wall right away. I had proven things to grow with. So definitely cool. The nose shape hasn't really changed, like the entry shape. We've always kind of liked that, it came from like that reverse bow style. So it's really sharp on the top and on the bottom. It's really nice too, because it's rounded on the front entry. So like the sea grass tends to go under it and then stick on the nose. So that's kind of like a cool little smooth feature there. But mainly the outline from the balance point forward has got narrower again. We were really starting to go to that parallel style outlines the last couple of years, but now that we figured out a couple of things with the bottom and where to position the concave, and a little bit wider tail enables us to pull in the nose, which just gives that initial kind of gliding cutting that a flat water board tends to like. So Yeah, the main thing is the shape's the same. The rocker's a little lower, a little more sharper as well. That helps it because it's initially, the nose is in the water. You know, a lot of times people will hop on the board and it, you know, it just feels a little different on a, you know, specific flat water board. So they tend to like stand back on it and have the nose out, but you truly want the nose in at all times because that's how it's designed and that's how it tracks so well.
So how have you kind of sought to tie more stability into the cockpit and standing area of the board?
Yeah, like the stability comes from a few things. One is the outline, and that's why the nose only goes narrow to like where you're at, right, to the standing zone. Because I like to call these the shoulders, and like these the hips, so to speak. And those two dimensions, width-wise, are very important for stability. So like I won't pull in a tail any further than a certain point back here, because we have done that in the past where you have more of like a teardrop shape, but like the stability, like I might do that on a downwind board or something.
Yeah, on a downtown, yeah.
Yeah, but like a really skinny, bladey board, like that is a key feature in design as far as stability goes.
Yeah.
So it's outline, obviously the bottom is very important, and then there's just certain things you could make this more comfortable for somebody to stand in, because the narrower you get, the sidewall needs to be a certain thickness to keep the stiffness, and obviously like the integrity of the board, the strength. So some people that feel a little claustrophobic in a dugout, so I just try to make this as minimal as I can and comfortable. And you know, we dug in the sidewall here, so you're kind of getting almost the full width of a flat deck board with this dugout in here, and it's really hard to make. Yeah. But I think it pays off in the end because it is that much more. Like the 22.5 board, which I've been riding mostly, truly feels like a 25 width inside. Yeah. In my mind, at least.
No, in practice, I mean, I'd concur. In practice, this board just feels underfoot, certainly far, far wider than you anticipate it does on paper. Yet it still feels super, super stable. And the big steep slab sides play a big part of that. But the cockpit also we found is very deep compared to other boards out there on the market. That ultimately is lowering your central gravity and you're ending up feeling really more stable, but you're very sure-footed and your footwork is really unimpeded as you work your way all the way down the deck of this board. And the transition I found as well is that it's quite gentle. Feels quite natural. It doesn't rush towards the tail as you climb out the deck standing area. It's just feels very fluid.
Yeah, and you're right. Like this was something we worked on quite a bit. It was a transition because it's so awkward going back to hit a buoy turn in a lot of dugouts, right? So you can see like the rail ends abruptly instead of going all the way to the tail. Yep. And this whole area is super flat, so it's unimpeded by the rail. Like it feels like a flat deck board back here. And this is like as minimal as transition as I could make it and still keep the volume. You know, there's a certain amount of like counterbalance you have on the volume as well. So like there's a certain thickness I like here to counterbalance with the front. And so this is like as close as I could get to keeping that balance and have it be a nice transitional ramp. And I think a big thing is how the rails just die at the turning point. And then, yeah, it's just like this. When you get back here, it's so stable. You're very confident on it.
But it does look like a square-tailed board. Right. But on the underside, and probably if it's best if we roll it over now up onto its rail, and you'll see, you know, just as to how thick, voluminous the board is. Yes. But it's really the magic in the tail, and that all of a sudden, what looks like a very wide board in the tail isn't. It's no longer there. Yeah. No, and yeah, I'm really proud about this design. It does a couple things. And I mean, if you've been following Infinity the last couple years, the Whiplash has always had some sort of step release, right? Yep. So we had like a small pintail, then a square tail, and then obviously a more extreme square tail. And the whole idea is just like trying to keep, you know, the water enters the board so clean. So I'm not worried about the water until it gets right here. And now it's just all about how do I get that board off, you know, and how do I want it to leave the board? Yep. And that's where the concaves come in, and this concave is not super rounded out. It kind of comes to a point, and that's by design. So the water enters the board, and then it kind of tells the water to go to the middle of the board, which also helps with that tracking you're talking about, but also kind of cradles under there. So now it's like, not like an AMA, but it's kind of having that effect of side-to-side stability.
cradled by the water, and because the water is going to touch the board no matter what. If the water is going to touch the board, we all want less wetted surface. You might as well try to tell it where you want it to go, right? And that's what I'm trying to do with that certain, I call it inverse V.
Yep.
And then, so out the back, why don't you tell where you want it to leave the board? So that's why this is high and pointy. I wanted to go directly out the back, and it's flat back here, so it has like a pretty flat, clean release. But what it's doing is focusing the water to the middle, off the rails. So then right here at the release point of the board, there's always a certain release point of the board in relative to the width of the tail. This is where ours is. So that's where we just have the rail die off the side. So the water from here thinks this board's way narrower. So it releases like a narrower board. So we're getting that narrow, flat water kind of release and glide that we want. But where this really comes into play is when you get back on the tail. So the further you step back on the tail, the wider the tail gets. So when you're tackling hard and fast, it's as narrow as it could be. But when you need it, it's almost like, intermittent stability. So when you take that, even Itzel will comment on this. This board's even though it's probably the tippiest race board we make, just because how extreme it is, it's the most stable off the tail, which is kind of incredible, because it has that intermittent stability. So it's kind of, it's tricking the water, and I love that.
There is a confidence piece we found jumping on the board, in that it is initially a little bit tippy.
Sure.
But you grow in confidence very, very quickly with the board. And we've paddled other boards with, tails that are very aggressive in terms of how they finish in pintail. But there's a really nice balance with this in that it's fast. There's no doubt about that. It's incredibly quick. But it's also very, very stable.
Yeah.
And once you have the confidence as to where that stability is, you can really start to use it, and you just keep growing in confidence.
For sure, yeah.
And particularly a lot of our customers, when they're on start lines, to have confidence in the board, and then you're going to keep your sky to sea ratio the right way round.
Right.
Then you can, have the confidence to put down more power and ultimately achieve, a greater speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes guys will be faster on a wider board just because they're more confident and stable. So that's what we're always trying to do, is build in a little bit more stability and confidence in the narrower boards as these guys get better and faster. It's like we're trying to keep up with the progression of the athletes, really. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just like, if you could see the concave transition, it's to shallow to deep to shallow again. And that's just, that's just trying to...
Just feeding the water towards...
Yeah, you're just trying to adjust the water so it's deepest behind where you stand, because when you're lunging forward, I want the water to be pushing the tail up. I call it like a drag racing, because a lot of times you'll see boards kind of go like that, and of course if it's dipping down, and there's a certain amount that you can't stop that, because just by these crafts are paddled differently. We're out in front and it's not getting pushed from behind. But you're just doing that. So, but I try to eliminate that, and that's what that concave does in the back. And the deeper behind your standing zone is just keeping the tail up more, which drives you forward instead of kind of dragging each time like that. So, just little things like that add up.
And it's those marginal pieces that just
exactly. Yeah, it's literally taking the deepest part of the concave, but moving it here. Just simple things like that you'll see those small little gains. Yeah.
And the construction.
Yeah, so that's another exciting thing for me, at least, is, hollow construction isn't new by any means. It's new to us. And we've been developing it for a couple years with our factory, and the Whiplash just made the most sense for us. We do have it in the Blackfish prototype, but overall, the hollow makes a lot of sense for flat water for me and what we're trying to do. And I think a lot of it, a lot of the, thoughts on hollow is that, people expect it to be way lighter. And even in your experience, it's not like it's way lighter. They're light by all means, but the real difference is the feel on the water. They feel lighter when you're paddling them. And it's almost like, since they are hollow, they're holding that air. It's like when you're taking those strokes, they pop out faster. So you get that kind of faster feel and faster kind of cleaner glide out of the board.
For us so far, it's been a combination of that greater sense of float and buoyancy ultimately within the board, but with so little and they are lighter, but they're lighter, you can accelerate quicker. But the big thing we found as well is that the rigidity of the board is increased because of the stringers within the structure, that there's no flex. And there is flex in 14-foot, foam core boards at the end of the day. But in the hollows, then they're just rigid. So all of that power, that effort and energy that you're putting into each paddle stroke is really translating into performance, because everything just gets going. But you've created an absolutely fantastic board, and one that is insanely quick, and one that's been incredibly popular for us here in our test center.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And been wanting to meet you guys for a while. You guys do a great job with all your videos, so I'm stoked to hop in one with you. And Itzel's here too. Why don't you wave to your fans, Itzel?
I'm just gonna come and take the board because this is my favorite board from the Infinity line, and I'm gonna go paddle it right now. So we'll see you guys.
Thanks very much. Thanks for watching our video. If you've got any questions about what you've seen, why not give us a call in the shop or head over to thesupco.com. To stay up to date though with all of our videos, well, make sure you subscribe up here and hit the notification bell. But to see our next video, well, take a look up here.